Guys, don't let the title fool you. This is a very technical video, and it goes straight to what we're seeing happening on our planet now and how it's changing. So hang in there, but let me ask you a question. It's happened to me, and that's why I dug deep into it. But have you ever dreamed in your life, or maybe you have recurrent dreams over the years of being in a city somewhere, maybe then you feel lost. You know that this isn't your home. You can see where your home is, but you just don't know which highway to take. And you ask people, strangers that you encounter there, can you tell me how to get back? But nobody really knows. Did you know there's a technical reason that's happening? And I think that for you that have these dreams, this video is very important, so stay tuned. Like I said, it's technical, so just hang in there. But guys, we're looking at what's called the radical pairs. On the left, you see the human eye. On the right, you see the animal eye. And you have these radical pairs, guys. They're called cryptochrome 2 proteins, and they use what's called a radical pair mechanism. The animals on the right, that eye, although they have the same look, they're slightly different. And that makes a difference. There's a crystalline substance, guys, that's microcrystalline in the eyes of both the human and the animal in their cryptochrome 2 proteins. Now, the one in the animal allows them to navigate without a compass. In other words, they can detect and see the visual lines of force, the ones that your compass uses. And that's how they steer. Now, we've seen reports when they get into a high electromagnetic field or something like that, that they can become disoriented. And what is happening is those frequencies are blocking that cryptochrome 2 protein from crystallining into the eye. But when they get animals move away from there, they can again navigate, or in this case, find their way home. And that is the message in the dream. But what has happened is the earth has changed, and this cryptochrome 2 protein in the human eye that you see on the left, guys, it is not as sensitive of a receptor under current conditions. And for over 15 years, I've talked about the God frequency, and we talk about the Schumann resonance and things like that, and how the pressure on the atmosphere controls the Schumann resonance. Remember that. It's not just the pressure. But right now, the Earth is recording via satellites a very weakening magnetic field. That is our Earth shields. And when that happens, guys, it allows the Schumann resonance to change. It changes that. And you know what it changes it back to? Into the 7 hertz frequency, right in that range to where which is the human frequency, and it's the frequency of our planet. It's technically the life frequency. And when that happens, and we're seeing it happen now, and there's another factor involved, we'll get into that, but as that energy or the EMF field around our planet lessens, guys, and it changes that frequency that's blocking our cryptochrome 2 proteins, we will start to see it. Now, it goes back to ancient times when they talk about the third eye and the processes of how they opened it. You saw the yogis and the Buddhas and everyone like that, they would meditate and you would see the images of the third eye. But what it is technically is exactly what we're talking about. And so what is happening in our dreams, pay attention, is that because that is blocked, and think about something else that's in the data that I pulled in, is the 3 o'clock thing. Again, this is not mysticism, it's not magic, but the 3 a.m. waking up at that point. It's because the ionosphere is changing at that point. And there's a different frequency that you're experiencing at that point. It's kind of like a wake-up frequency from the frequencies that have been stifling you. Now, there's 2. One is the Schumann resonance is not quite right, but that's changing. The other is the industrial frequencies that we experience every day in our lives because we're surrounded by electricity, the electromagnetic field. Now, what it says is these radical pairs, they introduce a quantum biology into the human eye. The cryptochrome 2 and the radical pair mechanism allows migratory animals to see Earth's natural magnetic field lines like a glowing homing beacon in the sky. And when you don't see that at 3 o'clock in the morning, that is your internal system waking up and saying, and trying to reopen that particular cryptochrome protein, guys. But it's letting you know that it is not awake, that there's an interference there. That's why you dream. Well, like I said, you're in one town, you know it's not your town, you need to get back home, but you don't know which highway to take, and no one can tell you. Something along that line. But what that 3 a.m. awakening is because right now the ionosphere is lowering, the sun's on the other side, and the frequencies change. That wake up, guys, is your real frequency saying wake up. And technically it's letting you know that you're not really lost, but that ability is trying to reawaken. We see it. We're at the end of this Earth cycle. We talked about the 13 Bactoons, 2012. We talked about the 13,000 years since the Younger Dryas. Things are changing. And what is the most important part about the video is that, again, it goes back to everything we've been looking at. Lake Mead hit record lows today, below 1040.58. They are experiencing hydropower loss going into the grid. We talked about in the Ghost video last night about how when the grid, or excuse me, when the data centers suddenly have to disconnect because they sense a voltage loss coming in from the grid, they switch instantly to their battery backups because even a millisecond loss can destroy billions worth of dollars worth of gear and information. So they instantly switch back, and so all of a sudden all the voltage that they're drawing being pulled into the data centers, plural, has nowhere to go, and it reverses back into the already weakened grid. What's happening? That demand is working exactly opposite of what they want. They want to take control of everything, but the way they're doing it is going to collapse the grid. And when that happens, guys, when that happens just in one major data center, it can throw off the entire grid by changing the frequency of one half of it, like in a big transformer. But what if you had a major problem in the, say, the Southwest grid, and many data centers felt that instant lowering of voltage, or you had a blackout where it was all, it's animated or automated, excuse me, and the AI switches it immediately, several data centers offline. Now, you guys out there that are more familiar with this than me, you understand it. But all of a sudden, the grid catches that rebound effect, and it can't handle it. And so what we're seeing is a race. One side of the race is being run by nature. The Earth is out of balance. The resources are being drained, and it's into this 13,000-year rebalancing. That's how it fits. And so it's rebalancing. And when that grid goes down, you're going to see a lot of the electromagnetic frequencies gone. And they're everywhere. Your earpods, your phones, your computers, inside your car. I have an EMF meter, guys. You get in your car, and you'd be amazed. Almost make you want to get back out. And if you drive for 30, 45 minutes to work or back, you're exposed to a lot of EMF. And what that does is you may leave work, guys, with some energy, but by the time you're exposed to that encaged car and the electronics, whether it's the overhead lights, overhead speakers, overhead air conditioning, you're surrounded, and it exhausts you. So I know you've experienced it. But anyway, all of what I'm talking about goes against the human nature, and it's designed to do that. We don't have the people with the best intentions running the planet right now. But their greed always is their collapse, and because they're going to rush to this and destroy the grid and try to destroy the water, they're going to destroy their own power sources. But it's going to create that calming effect that just like the crystalline or the microcrystalline particles in your eyes, those frequencies will reawaken those particular sections. throughout the body, as a matter of fact. But if you can look it up, and again, it's a very good study. But that's what we're going to see, and that is why you're having these dreams, because it is telling you that that section, that homing device that animals use, guys, is not working. It's a wake-up call. It's not an annoying thing on purpose, because I know more than one person out there has that around that 3 o'clock wake-up time. Did you know that's when the atmosphere is changing at that time? Because of where the sun's at, the cooling effect, and how all of that works together. There's a timing to that. Nothing mysterious about it. Nothing magical about it. It's just a thing that happens when the frequencies change. Your human mind wakes up to it. Now, to be honest with you, this goes back to many different civilizations and the wake-up call, including the Hopi. And the reason I say that is because they talk about a time when there's a sudden blue flash, the blue kachina. And what does it do, guys? It unmasks. It takes its mask off. What does that represent? If you look back, not at Frank Waters and some of the books that the Hopi allowed to stay on the bookshelf to distract from the truth, even though they heavily contested Frank Waters' version. If you look past that at, say, White Horse or somebody like that, you'll find a little bit more information. And what he talks about is the fact that not only is it just the eyes that cannot see the homing devices, it's the connection with the Creator. And that is being blocked, and that's the main thing, right? I've talked about that, blocking the God frequency for a long time. But now we're looking a little more technical into it and tying this dream state into this loss of a homing device built into your system that's being blocked by outside frequencies. But again, I think his name was Whitehorse. He talked about that very thing, and that the consciousness would reawaken other things, and that the message is not for everybody. If you want to look at it technically, that's how it's always been. If there was a situation where there was a big change on the planet, it was only a certain group that made it through it, whether it was on the Ark or it doesn't matter whether it was the Noah's Ark or the Ark of the Sumerians or the story of the Hopi survival. And it was always an awakening event. Now, something I want to say about that, again, the seed will survive, is the Hopi had a term for people that listened, that were in tune with nature, weren't into greed, distraction, industry, things like that, and they're called one-hearts. But the two hearts are totally different. And there's two types, if you want to look at it like that, of two hearts. One is that they are more in tune with industry, with building the biggest, the best, the most strongest, the most powerful, regardless of the replenishment of resources. That's a two heart. They talk about that, but it's the one hearts that are listening. And I think most of you guys have that. But knowledge is empowerment, and that gives you the ability to realize what's happening. In other words, anybody in the comments, please just say me or whatever you want to do, say yes or no. Have you ever had that dream and wonder why it's so recurrent? It's a warning. It's letting you know something is out of frequency. You need to wake up and get past that point. And this information is part of that. And again, most of you are what they would call a one heart. But when this modern world goes quiet, guys, you won't have to ask anybody where to go. How do I get here? What? That's going to be over with, because now that I can see, and it's a physical reaction to a lower frequency. But anyway, what they call it is the quantum radical pairs will lock into alignment. If you look back at this diagram, you've got these two pairs, and they're out of alignment. And when that frequency hits that alpha wave, then that will realign, reattune, not just the radical pairs in your eyes, but much of your body. Again, it's food for thought. Not going to make it long, but I did think it was important enough to at least bring it up, guys. We're watching again Lake Mead hit record lows today. We're about to see some of the problems we talked about. For every foot of loss on that lake, we lose 5 megawatts of power. and it's already very low. They've already lost 40%, guys, since we started watching in May, and we saw on June 1st to go from 1050 to now 1040. We lost 10 feet in just over 2 months. 10 feet. So it may get quieter much quicker than we think, because if we start to see these power grids overheat and the loss of the backup cushion of the hydropower, we're going to see massive blackouts that trigger the rebound effects about the ghost rebound we talked about in last night's video. It's going to shut down the largest noise maker on the planet, guys. Tell me what that is. What are people complaining about? The noise is endless. The water's draining. They feel sick. It's going to start there. And things are going to get much quieter. What you want to do is keep your heads up. Guys, there's in the next video, I've got some information I'll share with you. It talks about what the Hopi talked about during this time of purification. And that's what they're calling this change. And it's very important. That'll be in the next video, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.